Welcome to ESAConnection's Business Conversations. Today we're hearing from Youssef Khalaf of 100 Squared Financial about the differences between nonprofit and for-profit for small businesses.
Very much for having me. And yes, you got the name right. So it's good. It's good. You got it right. So I always start with my ongoing joke. I will need only 30 seconds of your time and I will teach you everything I know. So let's count it. Uh, I want to talk first the basics about the difference between the nonprofit and the for-profit company. The nonprofit, if you're going to start nonprofit, it has to be corporation. For profit can be LLC, corporation, partnership, or any other form of companies. Nonprofit have to be corporation. So for corporation, you have to do annual filing. If you skip that, then your name will be inactive, or your company, your corporation will be inactive. So you have to keep doing those annual filing. For the for profit, it depends about the type. If it's LLC, you just register it for life. If it's corporation, you still have to do the annual reporting for it, the annual filing. But if it's LLC, you don't have to do anything. The tax form is a little bit different. For the nonprofit, you're not paying taxes, but you have to file the 990 every single year. And if you fail to file that form for 3 years, you will lose that nonprofit status. So you don't want to mess with this and you have to file it. For the for-profit companies, again, it depends about the type. It could be, if it's a regular LLC, it could be 1165 form, could be 1120S, could be 1120. So it's different tax form for the regular for-profits. Now, the main important thing here is for the non-profits, the income or donations are tax deductible for donors. So if I'm giving money, or if someone giving you money for the nonprofit, those are tax deductible. The donor can deduct those as donation to nonprofits. Now there is some rules we applies. We'll talk about it in the next slide, how to form the nonprofit, because if you don't get that status, those donations are not tax deductible for donors. So you have to get the status for that. Versus for profit, income is always taxable because it's income. So if your company is for profit business, like my company, every penny I will make, I have to report it, and it's income, so I pay taxes on it. And the final thing is there's a form called, or the form is 1023. It's a long form, it's like 23 to 26 pages with the IRS. If your company is for profit, you don't have to do it. If you're doing non-profit, you have to file that form 1023. Normally the cost, just to file it with the IRS, not the cost if you hire someone to do it. The cost to file it with the IRS is $600. So when you file this, you have to pay $600. You have to fill the whole form and pay $600 and wait about 6 months to get the approval. I normally, if you do it correctly, I rarely see any rejection from the IRS for nonprofit if you do it correctly. Versus the for-profit, there's no extra form to do. Now, the main question here is, how are you going to raise your money? And that will help you make a decision if the business is going to be nonprofit or the business is going to be for profit. So if you're raising your money by doing services and charging money for those services, then most likely it's going to be for profit. If you're thinking about raising money by doing fundraising and asking for donations, not for specific job, for specific service you're offering, if you're getting money from the state, or from any other corporation, or any other nonprofit too, then if you're soliciting money from there, then it's a good idea to have nonprofits. Um, Again, if you're offering services and teaching someone offering services, then it's going to be a regular for-profit business. The second slide is if you're interested of doing nonprofits, there is a step-by-step have to follow that first. Obviously, you need to figure out if the name is available. Then you create the bylaws and with article of purpose and dissolution clause. You don't have to have the full bylaws ready to upload when you're ready to start the nonprofit, but those two things, article of purpose, why you're forming this nonprofit, and then the dissolution clause, what are you going to do with the assets the nonprofit owns if you decide to close the shop and close this nonprofit? What are you going to do with it? Those two have to be a part of the corporation filing. Normally, for your own business, if you're filing like a corporation, LLC, or corporation or partnership, you really don't need the bylaws. You don't need those two items because you just say that this is who owns the business, this is the address, this is the type of business, and that's it. For nonprofit, you have to include the article of purpose and dissolution clause when you file the corporation with the AZ Corpcom, because the IRS will look for those two. When you file your form 1023, they will go to your state or the AZ Corpcom, and if you don't have those two items on your Corpcom, they will reject the application. They will take the $600, obviously, but they will reject your application, and then they will give you 30 days to correct it and refile. You don't have to pay again if you file it on time, but you have to correct it in the AZ Corpcom before you do that. And the fourth item is create an EIN. Fourth step, create an EIN on the irs.gov. I just want to tell you that the irs.gov website, they open right now, they open between 6 a.m. on the website, 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. If you go outside of this time, you won't notice, but the system will lead you to a third party, and that third party will charge you $300 to $400 to start your EIN number. And then you will receive it within 2 to 3 weeks. You will receive the letter within 2 to 3 weeks by mail. So it's kind of, I don't want to call it cheating, but you want to notice because EIN numbers are free. If you do it on time, you don't pay for EIN unless if you hire someone to pay for to help you with that. But you don't pay to the IRS to file that EIN number, versus they will charge you $300 to $400 if you try to do the EIN number outside that time. And then the last one is file that form 1023 and pay the fee for it. That form is about 23 to 26 pages. It's a long form, easy to file, but long form. And you have to do it, and you have to wait 6 months, about 6 months to get that approval. Now, some tips you want to think about when you're making that decision for the nonprofit. First, it's nonprofit. So if you have extra money in there, you can't just say, oh, I'm going to distribute them and I'm going to take some money. It's nonprofit. You can't do that. And then you want to think about financial software to use. You don't want to keep or not keep your books in line, because when you file that 990, it's going to be almost impossible for the CPA to do it if you don't have a clean books. So I always recommend to find financial software. I recommend normally QuickBooks, but you can find something cheaper, but you don't want to do it without that financial software to keep track of your financial income and expense. And then the last piece is when you find a bank, you can use smaller banks. It's easy to deal with smaller banks, less rules to follow if you want to open nonprofit account with the smaller banks. But if you use that financial software, QuickBooks or something else, it's going to be tough to connect with those smaller banks. Versus if you use a bigger bank, yes, there's a lot of rules to follow, and it takes a little bit longer to be able to open nonprofit bank account with the larger banks, but you can connect easily. You can see details. The person who's doing your CPA, the CPA or the bookkeeper who's doing this, it will be easier to find the information so you don't have to go and hunt for it. That's the difference and some step-by-step for nonprofits. And if you guys have any questions, I will be more than happy to answer questions.
Awesome. Thank you. That was so helpful. I kind of want to start out the questions, if it's okay, monopolize, and then Esther's got one. So being new to the educational space with the ESAConnection, I feel like it's 50-50 for educational businesses to be set up as nonprofit or LLC. Do you have any thoughts or input on that? What is better for an educational business, or what might be the benefits to be a nonprofit versus a for-profit? Because obviously with a nonprofit, you need to have a board, you have to do the fundraising. There's so many other aspects of it. So what are your thoughts about an educational business? What model should we lean towards or kind of maybe think about more than the other?
I've seen both. I've seen education business, for-profit, education business for nonprofits. And the way how I see it, if it's for-profit, your income, your money in is very limited because you have it's your time you have, or if you hire someone, it's the time of your team, and it will be limited because you have to offer the service to get the money. Versus the nonprofits, the income, I don't want to say unlimited, it depends about your network, but it's kind of larger, not unlimited, larger pool to tap in, especially with the government aid, with donors willing to donate. So if you have a good cause and if you're teaching the right students for free because they're unfortunate and they don't have enough money, you can find people can donate money for that. So I see the again, it's not called revenue, but it's the income for nonprofit is a lot larger than the income for the for-profit, same kind of business, education business.
Thank you. All right, Esther, do you have a question? Go ahead and ask it.
Yes. I just wanted to know, for a for-profit education business that wants to have a nonprofit arm, what are your suggestions or thoughts on how to go about that? Even time frame ideas. I'm just curious to know.
Yes, so if I understand the question correctly, so you have a for-profit education business and you're thinking about creating nonprofit for it.
Yes.
Okay, that's very good question. I always hear that question. I always recommend, because some people will ask me, how about if I want to change the status of my business to a nonprofit? I don't recommend that. First, your business could be an LLC, so it can be nonprofit. You have to have corporation for nonprofit. Second, that nonprofit will inherit the history of your business. If it's bad or good or bad, but it will inherit history. So it's not really clear nonprofit. So it's a good idea, and I've seen it too. It's a good idea. You have your business, then when your business is kicking off and you have okay business and you want to help, then you create that nonprofit sister business or whatever it's called, nonprofit, different name, could be foundation added to the name, could be anything added to the name if you want to. Then you can start raising money for that nonprofit. Now it's a tricky little bit, and it could be fishy if you're doing it not correctly. That nonprofit could help and pay your profit business a portion of the services you're offering. But again, you have to be very careful because you don't want to just assume that every payment from the nonprofit to your business is legit and it's okay with the IRS. It's very tricky, so you have to be very careful. And again, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not doing any legal advice here, but it's very tricky, and I see sometimes problem created by doing that. So you want to be very careful. But I've seen it, businesses opening nonprofit on the side to help furthering their cause. Does that answer your question, Esther?
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Awesome. Any more questions for Youssef? Awesome. I'm going to take it off the recording. Thank you so much, Youssef, for coming tonight and sharing your knowledge.